On the surface, I seem to have everything going for me. 3-time Athlete of the Year, top student, and over 1,000 Instagram followers. I've always been confident in myself. I look in the mirror and I like what I see. I've never had a problem speaking in front of large crowds. And even on my worst mornings, I can get out of the car, straighten my shoulders, and walk into school with a smile on my face. And so, I think that people will be surprised to learn that I have anxiety and depression. I myself am surprised to be saying that, but some things just can't be anticipated. Following my 3rd concussion while playing rep hockey, I was diagnosed with post-concussion syndrome. I have suffered from this with my previous injuries, only this time much more severely. Along with daily headaches, dizziness, nausea, and trouble focusing, I was moody, irritable, and unmotivated. By December, things only seemed to be getting worse. Normal, everyday life suddenly became impossible. Difficult homework questions would lead to hours of crying. Panic attacks became a nightly occurrence, and certain sounds would upset me so much that I would become non-functional. Going to school was now an ordeal. Getting out of bed in the morning and thinking about all of the living, breathing, and walking that I would have to do was torture. When I laid down, I could feel gravity pulling my limbs into the ground. But it's little things. It's being 17 and my parents having to remind me to shower or eat. It's sitting in my car in the driveway in 30-degree weather because opening the door and walking into the house seemed impossible. It's relying on my mom to find me there and still needing half an hour of convincing to get out of the car. Last school year, for all of December and January, I would spend hours every night, either sobbing or motionlessly staring at a wall. Even now, I spend at least one night a week just being anxious. During these times, all I think about is how unproductive I'm being. I have assignments to complete, tests to study for, and sporting competitions to be rested for. I used to make detailed study schedules in order to maximize my time and be able to play sports, see friends, and complete schoolwork. But how was I supposed to create a study schedule when I was unable to predict what days I'd be incapable of working? I couldn't just schedule a day for anxiety, because it comes without any warning. I had no way to prevent myself from having a bad night, regardless of any tests or assignments due the next day. As an A+ student, the idea of submitting sub-quality assignments embarrassed me, devastated me. My friends would all be stressed after some test. They would go on and on about every question and ask me what answers I got. And I would just be thinking about how I hadn't studied at all, because I had spent my night too stressed to get off my floor. I became obsessed with returning to my pre-concussion, anxiety, and depression-free self. I was unable to focus or remember as well as I did before, and my marks suffered because of it. I wanted a solution. I wanted to know how I could focus and remember like I used to, how I could get back to my previous, happier self. I saw a therapist whom I hated. I was prescribed antidepressants that I didn't take. I went to so many appointments that I stopped wanting to see any doctors or specialists. It wasn't until April of this year that somebody presented things to me differently. After I'd been too anxious to write a test and wrote a week after my classmates, a teacher pulled me aside to talk. She asked if I considered the possibility that I was doing too much with my heavy course load, high sports involvement, and active social life. My response was that I am doing less than I used to. 8 months ago, I had been doing all the same things as well as playing rep hockey, but I was still able to maintain higher marks. She just looked at me and told me that I didn't answer the question. It didn't matter what I used to be able to do. My life was different than it was 8 months ago, and that meant that my abilities were different than they were 8 months ago. And that conversation, just a 20-minute talk from a teacher who noticed I was struggling, was the turning point for me. I couldn't get out of my head. The way that she suggested I should approach living with anxiety made me feel so relieved. Somehow, just thinking of things a little differently took away some of the anxiety. I had been pushing so hard to achieve something that was no longer achievable for me. The reality is that I am not as capable as I once was. My mental health, academic performance, and athletic ability are not what they used to be. By pushing so hard to reach the level I was performing at before my concussion and mental illness, which is no longer possible for me, I was putting unnecessary stress on myself. It's hard to sit down and admit that I'm more limited, that I may suffer from headaches, trouble focusing, and anxiety for the rest of my life. But it is also freeing. There is comfort in accepting life's conditions. And as my teacher pointed out, changes in life are natural. Around the same time as my conversation with my teacher, I had a friend open up to me about her mental health. I had no idea that she suffered from anxiety and had been self-harming for years. I was shocked, and I thought it was so brave of her to share that with me and with others. Inspired by her bravery and eager to have someone my age to talk about mental health with, I told her about my own experiences with anxiety and depression. Since then, I've been slowly opening up to others and trying to be honest about what I need from them. Every person I open up to becomes one less person to lie to and one more person to lean on. Since beginning to share my story, I have found others suffering from mental health issues, others who need support just as much as I do. Anxiety sucks, but having people look out for me makes it better. Now, when I'm unable to focus or remember as well as I did before, I know to give myself more time. Some nights I will be too anxious or sad to be productive. I need to stay on top of things so I can afford those nights off. I work with my teachers, family, and friends to figure out how I can achieve my goals, even if it takes a little longer than it would have before. Maybe one day I'll be able to say that anxiety and depression are no longer an issue for me, that I'm headache-free and doing better than ever, and maybe I won't. But I'm doing just fine, and I'll see when I get there. Looking back a few years, I remember that before I experienced my own battle with mental health, I was, unfortunately, one of the many who assumed that only certain people are affected by mental health. The kid with anxiety would be the kid who eats their lunch alone and never says anything in class. I felt for people suffering from depression or anxiety, but I thought it would never be me. But life hit me in the head, and that can happen to anyone. And I hope that if you can take anything home from my story, it is that you don't know what other people are going through. But paying attention and questioning why someone may be struggling, as my teacher did, could make all the difference to them.